Excellent, excellent. So welcome to our 2025 test prep writing practice. So here's the thing. There's a lot of feelings all around testing, and we're going to dive into that. But I'm really hoping that this morning, as you join us, I want you just to get comfortable. Hopefully you have something nice and warm to drink and you're in a quiet place, because more than anything, I want to invite you to come with a very open mind, ready to learn. It's kind of like when you're ready to teach your child, say, a new math concept. Don't you hope they come in ready and willing to be like, I'm going to give it my best today, mom? Right? That's how I want you to show up right now, the way that you would want your children to show up for a lesson. So even though I know there may be some negative thinking around testing, I just want you to come in and just be like, no, I'm just here to learn today. And here's the thing too, if you just take one awesome thing away, one awesome thing from today, it's a win. It's going to be a total win for you. Okay. Oh, I'm just so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. Don't you worry. No need to apologize. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm just kind of moving all my things around. I like to, you guys know you can move your chat box around. You like kind of like just get everything the way you like it. Okay, so let's get started. This is meant for parents or teachers. A lot of times I'll get facilitators who love to get this like refresher. And here's the thing too, some of you are coming back. Like we've already, like I know you're already coming back. This isn't any new information. It's more of a refresher amount of information. So I would like to know in the chat box, in my own mind, to whom is this brand new? If you're new, if you're like, I know nothing about this whole writing performance task test, like I'm new to this. Will you just write new in the chat box? So I know exactly, like, yes, this isn't just a refresher for me. I really need to learn. I'm new. Okay, good. Awesome. I'm good. I'm so glad to know that. Yay, so many of you. Awesome. Okay. So just know you're gonna at the end be like, I think she just tried to force me to drink from a fire hose. It's gonna feel like a lot coming at you. Your goal is not to master anything today. It's not. Today is just like learning the overview of it all and then figuring out how to practice, which you totally can do. Okay. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. And a lot of you are already signed up. A lot of people are on the fence and they're like, let me see. I'm still thinking about this. So welcome all. You're all welcome, no matter where you are in this fun little journey we're on. So if you have your guided notes, be sure to grab them. Piece of paper works fine too. I did link to the notes. So hopefully, if you didn't get them yet, you could open them up in a new tab. And I just, again, want to encourage you to relax into this and be the student and just be ready to learn. Who loves to learn, by the way? Like, I love to learn. I love to learn new things. I'm always like, I'm the person who listens to all the podcasts and I'm always reading a new book. Like, I love that about learning. And my guess is so many of us share that in common. I doubt you'd be a parent teacher, right? You are a home educator. I doubt you'd be doing what you do if you didn't love to learn. So you're already in the perfect place and you're going to learn all this great stuff. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to just keep letting some people in over here. Okay. So I really want to start with this little analogy that I thought of this week. Do any of you love to do family hikes? Yeah, has anybody like made it a point? Like we try to do that once a month, whether it's like a local one or maybe you've even gone up to the mountains and done hikes. I love hiking. I absolutely love it. I love walking. Yeah. So hiking is fun and it's really fun with the whole family. And in the beginning, it can feel like a little daunting. Like, you guys, we're going to be like, this is a 2-hour hike. Here we go. and you don't really know exactly what it's going to present to you throughout those 2 hours, but you just take one step at a time, right? We all know this very well-known Chinese proverb, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And we also know that it's in the journey that we find all the things that become most memorable. It's not that we made it to the end. I mean, that's great, but the stories come from all the things that happened on that journey. And so I want you right now, and you can respond to these in the chat box. I'd love to know your thoughts about this. But I think that hiking and homeschooling have a lot in common. This was this little analogy. I always think in analogies. This was my analogy this week. So I want you to just think about your whys, why you do a few things, because they're very wise. Your whys are wise. Why do you homeschool? You can tell us in the chat box, or if somebody wants to just turn on their mic and tell us, raise your hand electronically. There should be in the participants window, it says raise hand, and I can see that you'd like to take the mic and tell us. But I would love to know, why do you homeschool? You know you don't have to, right? It's a choice. Nobody's doing this because they have to. You're doing this for a reason. Why? Why do you choose to homeschool? What brought you into the homeschool space? I would love to know. I'm going to get my little hot tea over here. Oh, I love what you said, Shannon. More time with my daughter. Wait, it's not because you love teaching math? What? I didn't think so. That's not why most of us choose to homeschool, is because we just love to teach. It has to do with far more than that, right? Lauren says that she loves the freedom of homeschool. Yes, flexibility, getting to choose what you want to learn and when. I love that. I love that. Absolutely. What about the second why? I'm curious about. Outside of homeschooling, you do other things, right? You plan outings for your family. I know you do. We have all moms with us right now, which is usually who we have. Every once in a while, there's a few dads. I love that. But I see all moms right now. Okay. And as moms, aren't we the planners? Typically we are. Typically we are. And so you plan things, you plan activities, you plan outings, you plan the field trips to do as a family. You don't plan for you to go do things by yourself most of the time, although I hope you do every once in a while. But most of the time you're thinking family outing. Why? Why do you want to pull your family together so badly? Have you thought about this? If you're like, I'm not sure why, I encourage you to reflect on that a little bit. I love what Roka said. My husband's a farmer and I love the freedom of traveling with him during the season. That's fabulous. And I mean, there's a lot of learning that happens right there. You want to talk about some science? Farming and seasons and planting. Oh my goodness. Daisy said to create memories and bond with each other. Of course, right? That's why we plan all the things. This is our season in life. It's again about connection. Why do you homeschool? It's about connection. Why do you plan all your outings? Because it's connection. And why does family even matter to you? Now, this can be a tender question, because I know, and you do not have to own this if this is where you are. I'm certainly not trying to call anybody out, but some of us didn't have ideal childhoods. And you see this as an opportunity to create the family you didn't get to experience. There are two times in our lives that we have parent and child relationships. In one, we're the child and we have very little control. And in the other one, we're the parent and we get all the control. It's important. So family matters to you for a reason. And my guess is because you want to connect with these people that you love the most. Yes? I would guess so. I love what Viviana said. It's a way to be able to disciple them in a more daily way too. Yes, they're going to learn from the people they spend their time with. We need to be really careful who they spend their time with. Yep. It's a great one. It's very important. And again, why does your family matter? You love them. You love them. They matter to you. You want to connect with them. You want to have a bond. You want to build memories, all these things. That's why you do what you do. Now, when you go on a hike, do you tell your 10-year-old, your 12-year-old, hey, get on my back and I'm going to carry you this next 2 hours? I hope not. One, your 10 or your 12-year-old or your 8-year-old for that matter wouldn't want that. They want to experience the hike themselves. Some of them want to go straight out to the lead. Others will always stay right behind you for security. That is what your homeschool journey is like too. You don't want to carry them on your back the whole time, but at the same time, are you going to just send them off on a 2-hour hike and be like, good luck? No. You're going to pack their backpack. You're going to make sure they have what they need. And you're going to come along too. And odds are you know the path. You know, you've done your research. You've planned this outing. You're like, okay, we go up here for 1.3 miles and then we're going to go to the right, right? That's how I want you to be thinking as we go into this information about how to teach good writing. And I want you to remember it's a hike that you're coming along on. And it's important that you are in the journey. You're not just pushing them and hoping they figure it out. That's not why you do any of this. It's about connection, bonding, memories, right? It's because you love them. Okay. Are we all in a good mindset? That's important. Okay. These are some of the things I've heard lots of parents say. I care about my child's success more than anyone else. If you ever had your child in a classroom setting at like the neighborhood brick and mortar school, it's quite likely that you saw kids slipping through the cracks. It happens. I was a classroom teacher for 13 years. And I loved it when I very first started. I had like 25, 26 kids. But by the time I moved out of the classroom setting, I had 36 students and no aide to help me. I had to rely on parents, but most parents were working 2 jobs. And so, parent, mom and dad both had to, have the dual income. So I didn't get a lot of support in there. And even though I loved those kids so much and I wanted to do everything, I wanted to show up and be the best teacher that I could be, kids slip through the cracks. Not because I'm a bad teacher or a terrible person. It's too many kids. I don't like that about our education system. It's too many kids. One teacher, I say 12 to 15. Then you're going to really see some incredible teaching happening. But we're not there. So I could see bringing your child home. And that's what I used to say. So I was a classroom teacher for 13 years. And then I became a facilitator for a charter school. So I was the teacher you met with every month and you showed your work samples to. That was me. I did that for 15 years. And I always said during that time, while my kids were still going to a brick and mortar at that first point, at that point, I said, until I feel like I could do a better job than the classroom teacher is, I won't need to homeschool. But guess when that happened? Third grade. And I started to see a decline in the potential that my kids could have been doing. So I ended up bringing 2 of our 3 boys home. And I homeschooled for altogether 9 years. So I have that experience as well. The thing about doing the activities, I'm all about this. I believe togetherness builds bonds, closeness, and memories, which is why I also think you shouldn't homeschool alone. I think we need communities like these that you're like, oh, look at all these moms. We all have these things in common. We all should be connected. Yes, we should. You need this kind of support and encouragement. And I would also agree with the mom who says caring for my family is the most important job I have. It certainly is. Okay. Now let's talk about testing and writing. Deep breath. Here we go. If you have your notepad or your notes, your guided notes, I have some things on the history of tests. I really feel this is important because tests have been given a bad name. Tests were not always, in my mind, a negative thing, but I think they've become a negative thing because we've over tested and And I don't think we do enough with the results of the tests. But here's the truth. Originally, when the very first tests were given, they were meant to measure the teacher's effectiveness, not student achievement. Now that's important. So if I'm a teacher and I just taught a math concept on adding fractions, I'd want to know, did my 20 students all get that? Did I teach it well enough that they understood the concept? So I would pass that out. There's the test. And I get them all back, and 18 of them did the problems correctly. Then I know as a teacher, I did pretty well with that. And there's a couple that I still need to give a little extra instruction to. That was the point of a test. Not to be like, hey, you got this percentage, you got that percentage, you got that percentage. It wasn't about what the student achieved. It was a measure of how well the teacher taught. Number two, it was meant to guide instruction, not degrade a learner. And I see so many children who feel bad about themselves because of a low test score. No, it means their teachers need to work on another way to instruct so that they get it, so that they understand. And it's not shame on the teacher or shame on the child. It's a tool. It's just a tool. And number three, it was meant to remain objective and track progress over time. It was supposed to give clear evidence rather than just being like, oh, I hope my kids did okay. Nope, it was proof. It was proof you could rely on, and it was consistent. That's how it all started. But is that how you think of tests? Probably not. We have so many other thoughts about tests. So the number one thing we're going to do moving forward is I want you all to grab this thought, because our thoughts are really important and they're all optional, right? Do we all agree we have free will? We're not puppets. We get to think for ourselves. That's important that we're all on the same page there, because I believe we all have agency, free will, whatever you want to call it. We get to think for ourselves. And if I get to choose my thoughts, I'm going to choose ones that serve me and that bring in joyful feelings. So here's a thought I want you to focus in on. My focus over the next couple months, as we get closer to testing season, my focus is teaching, not testing. We'll take a test in the spring and hopefully everybody does great. But if not, that's okay. We're going to learn from that as well. We're going to focus back on teaching. And I hope that feels better for you to focus on teaching, not the testing. Put the test aside. Even if we didn't have state testing, I would still teach students what I'm about to teach you, the 3 core styles of writing. I would teach that no matter what, because that's going to help our children in life with life skills. It's communication. Communication skills are important. Test or no test, I would still be teaching this, okay? It's just that that's a benefit that your students are going to do really well on the test. That's great. But that's not the main focus. Our main focus is teaching. So there are 3 things we're going to cover today. And number one is I want to make sure you understand what the ELAPT even is. There's so many acronyms thrown out at you. I just want to make sure that you, as a teacher, you are a teacher. You are a home educator. You are a teacher. I want you to call yourself a teacher. I want you to think of yourself as a teacher. You are a teacher. Classroom teachers, certified teachers, credentialed teachers, they are taught everything I'm about to teach you. This would be like a professional development day. They're taught this. You should be taught this too. You're an educator. It's not fair that you don't know it. So let's make sure you know it. The second thing that we're going to do is I'm going to talk about specific grade levels. Let me know, what grade levels are we currently working with here? Do you have a 3rd grader, 4th grader, 5th grader, 6th grader, 3rd grader? Excellent. We've got a 3rd grader. I love that you're starting now. I love that you're starting now. We've got a 6th grader, 5th grader, another 3rd grader, lots of 3rd graders. Oh, yay you. Start this early, and this is going to just become a breeze. It's going to become second nature. So good. Okay. The third thing, so I'm going to tell all of you your specific goals for teaching writing. And then the third thing is I'm also going to offer the practical, stress-free ways to teach children these things. Okay, I have a crash course. A lot of you have already signed up for it. It's great, but some of you are still on the fence. I have another way you can practice without having to spend a dime. If you're like, I just don't have any funds left, there's a way you can practice on your own that's free of cost. I don't think it's nearly as great as what I offer, but it is an option. Okay, so we're going to talk about state testing. Have you heard these terms, CASP or SBAC? Yes, or are those familiar to you? Has your facilitator said anything about, hey, your CASP test? Nope. Julie's like, nope. Yep, a couple of them. Nope, I've never heard of those. Okay, so you will start hearing about it in March and April, more and more and more. So I just want you to be aware of what this is, because I hope that most of you understand charter schools are not private schools. They're public schools. Your children are in a public school if you're enrolled in a charter school. They are. You're in a public school. Your school gets funding from the state of California, and you get those funds to use for academic purposes, and they bring in credentialed teachers. That's a public school. It's just you're in a charter school that allows you to homeschool, which is a great option. I love that we have options. Good stuff. But because it is a state-funded establishment, that means that there are certain hoops we have to jump through. And your charter school needs you to show up for test time, not just, hey, fill in any bubble, although they're not bubble scantrons anymore. They don't need you to just be like, just answer whatever. We're just going to show up and take the test. We don't care about test scores. We need to care. We do. We really do. Because if charter schools are not showing that the funds are being effective and kids are learning, this will not be an option for us anymore. So it is important, as well as it does give you a tool over the year. So if you've got third graders, this is just year one. But next year and the year after year and the year after year and the year after year, you'll get to watch your child's progress. And you're not comparing it to other kids. You're just comparing it to your child's progress year after year. It's a really good benchmark. It's a good tool. I think you'll see a lot of value in it. Okay, so CASP is a test program. It's kind of like the umbrella for the state of California. It stands for the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. It is the umbrella, okay? And it's obviously just for California. Every state has their own, but we're all Californians, and so we have the CASP program and all the people that work for CASP, and they decide the different tests that students are going to take for different subjects, for different grade levels. And CASP works with SBAC. SBAC is the group that makes the test, okay? So they kind of fall under the CASP. CASP uses SBAC. And they are a computer adaptive test. You'll hear possibly CAT tests. All that means, and I love computer adaptive tests, it adapts, the computer adapts to your child. So let's say while they're working on the math portion, your child is given some addition problems, gets it right, gets it right, gets it right. They're gonna adapt, the computer's gonna adapt and say, oh, this child knows this. Does your child know fourth grade math? Does your child know fifth grade math? Does your child know sixth grade math? It's gonna keep adapting. And then your child's gonna miss a few and it's gonna come back down. It's gonna say, oh, let's try this. And it's trying to figure out exactly where your child is academically. So it adapts. It's a good thing. SBAC just stands for Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. It's a group of people that just put it all together, okay? Education loves acronyms. I'm just going to tell you that. It is not important that you memorize any of that, okay? It's just I want you to know, because you're an educator, that those are terms from the state for programs that put together these tests. Now, on that test, and I'm going to show you all the things your child will be tested on depending on their grade level. But if you have a third grader through eighth grade, they are going to have what's called the ELAPT. I know, more acronyms. It stands for English Language Arts, right? We are studying the English language, right? If we were in Mexico, it would probably be Spanish Language Arts, Espanol, right? It's English Language Arts because that's the language we are learning. Performance task is really, in other words, just the English essay as you and I would know it. They just don't call it an essay. They call it a performance task. It's the same thing. The ELA PT is an English essay. And some of you right now are like, hold up, are you telling me my third grader, some of you have 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, a few 9-year-olds, is expected to write an essay in third grade? More or less, yes. So let's talk about what is an essay. An essay, by definition, is a short, formal piece of writing that responds to a question regarding a specific topic. Now, students always say, essays aren't short, Mrs. Webb. I wrote one that was 3 pages long. I work with writers all year long, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I'm like, that's actually considered short writing. Have you seen chapter books? Have you seen novels? Have you seen textbooks? That's long pieces of writing. An essay typically is 1 page, 2 pages, maybe 3. And that is in the substance of writing considered a short amount of writing. A lot of them are like, I disagree. That's fine. But the key words here is that it's formal. So it shouldn't sound like a third grader is talking. It needs to sound more formal. I don't know if any of you had teachers in school and you were maybe stuck on writing and you're like, I don't really know how to say this. And they'd say, just write it like you would speak it. I think that's the worst advice of all. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's going to be way too casual. We speak so casually. An essay is meant to be more formal. And so we're going to talk about what that sounds like and the vocabulary that we're going to use. Okay. And it does have to respond to a specific question being asked of them to see, can they follow directions? Do they understand what's being asked of them? Do they know how to respond? Okay. So it really can vary. So I want you to know this. Let's say it's test time and your third grader finishes the ELAPT after all you practiced. And your child says, Mom, I'm so sorry, but I only ended up writing 6 sentences. I am here to tell you your child could still score at or above grade level with 6 sentences if those 6 sentences had all the components they're looking for. And it really could. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. They don't have to write pages and pages. They don't. It just needs to show a few important things, and we'll go over that. On your packet, on page 2, I think it's at the bottom of page 2. Yeah, guided notes page 2. You're going to see this screen, and I put it on there because as you continue to practice, I hope you join our writing programs and let me do all of this for you. But if you're like, I just want to maybe work over the summer, what are some things I could do? We want you to be practicing all 3 core writing styles. There's persuasive, expository, and narrative. There's 3. And isn't that nice? It spells pen. That makes it easy to remember. Persuasive, expository, and narrative. And we'll go into more details on those in a second. But if you're like, okay, but what would be an example of writing a persuasive? Think of an editorial column in a newspaper. Maybe somebody is outraged about something that's happening locally and they write into the paper. A lot of times we see this on social media now. You see a lot of persuasive people speaking out, right? They have an opinion and they want to share it and they're sure they're right. Thoughts are optional. We don't have to agree with them, but they're still being persuasive, right? Writing a letter to a local representative, again, because you have something that you want to see fixed, or you have an idea that you want to see implemented, right? If you're trying to get somebody to agree with you, I actually just had a friend who had some damage happen in her apartment because they were doing some roofing work, and they actually came through the roof, and she wants her that at least that room thoroughly cleaned now, and she believes they should be paying for it and there was some damage done too. She wants to be reimbursed. And so we were talking and we were laughing, and she's like, it's a good thing I know how to be persuasive, because I knew exactly how to say it, how to not be emotional, and how to end with a call to action. I'm like, writing serves us in life. It does. There's a time when we will need to be persuasive. Reviews. If somebody reviews something and they're like, you should buy this Instant Pot is amazing, I'm gonna tell you why, right? That could be persuasive. Expository, more like your research papers, right? If your child loves learning about penguins and then you write about them, it's an expository. Or if there was an eyewitness news reporter, right, on the scene, not supposed to be biased, but they're just saying this happened, then this happened, then this happened. That's expository. No opinions are in expository. You could still do a product review. You just wouldn't be giving your opinion. You just say, these are the pros, these are the cons of a Instant Pot, but you're not trying to sell me on it, okay? And then the third style is narrative, which is storytelling. I mean, how many of you got this one? First day of school, write about your summer vacation. I think that's a really boring one, by the way, but it is a form of narrative. Stories can be true or imagined. So let's talk about these. I'm on this next page. The number one thing that I want, if you do nothing else from after today's webinar, I just want to make sure you understand these three styles and you promise to practice in a semester one of each. One of each. Just one time, but one of each. Every semester. Third grader, fourth grader, fifth grader, sixth grader, seventh grader, eighth grader. Yes. One of each every semester. Persuasive writing, if you have a third through fifth grader, is called an opinion performance task. Makes sense, right? Persuasive, persuade, opinion. They're all synonymous with one another. Now, if you have a sixth, seventh, or eighth grader, when it comes to the test, it's not going to say opinion. It's going to say argumentative, because there is one extra thing that you're taught in middle school that third through fifth graders aren't expected to do, but they can. And if they do, they'll actually score above grade level. And I'm going to teach it to you because it's not that hard. It's really not. But its goal or purpose is to persuade. Now, I'd love for you to start using this vocabulary. So let's say that you're getting ready to make dinner and there's a couple options, right? You guys could have tacos, or you've maybe, you have some shredded chicken. You're like, we could do tacos or we could do quesadillas. Persuade me on which one I should make for you guys today, right? Use this wording in your day-to-day living. Say, I want to hear you argue 3 reasons, especially if there's like a sibling debate. That works really well. Start to use the vocabulary so they become very aware of what's persuasive, because it's opinionated. The second one, expository, as I mentioned, if you have a third through fifth grader, it's going to be called informational performance task, informational performance task. And again, always look for your root words. In expository, the root word is expose. In informational, it's inform. And in explanatory, it's explain. All of those words, expose, inform, explain. You're just telling somebody a summarized version of what you've learned without an opinion, right? So that's it. Its goal or purpose is to expose facts and summarize a topic, just to inform and explain to your audience something for them to learn about. The last one the narrative, real or imagined stories, has one goal: to entertain. It entertains. It entertains through an engaging storyline, characters, dialogue, all those fun things. So practicing each one of those every semester is going to prepare your child not just for the next grade, right? If you have a third grader, don't you want your child to be prepared for fourth grade soon? Yeah, they need to know these three. But it also helps build communication beyond middle school, high school, college, career. Okay, now all of those are potential ELAPTs. You will not get to choose. If you didn't fill out your form, by the way, those were the words. You don't get to choose on test day. Your child doesn't get to choose. It's not like they're going to say, okay, for today's test, pick the opinion, the informational, or the narrative. They're not going to do that. They're going to just say, here's your opinion prompt. Go ahead and write. That's why it's really important that you practice all three, because you don't know. And here's the thing, I'll never forget one year when I proctored a test, one of my students went in and he took the test, and as everybody was exiting that day of testing, I was like, so which did you get? And I forget what he said he got. He either got an opinion or an informational. And I said, oh, excellent. And he goes, yeah, I didn't really like the topic. So I had an idea in my head of a story about a red race car. So I wrote a really great story, a narrative. And I said, I'm glad you showed up. And I gave him a big hug. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's not going to even get scored. He didn't follow the prompt. So make it very clear to your children, you don't get to pick. The test will tell you what you are to write about. Following directions is important. Okay, here are a few just quick examples. Any questions right now? Do you guys feel pretty good about these three styles? I'm going to show you a few like in real world examples just to kind of drill that in. This would be persuasive. 10 reasons you should homeschool your children, right? So if you write articles or blogs or things like that, you see these kinds of articles all the time. They are persuasive. It's going to tell you 10 reasons. What side are they on? That you should homeschool. It's persuasive. It's one-sided. This other example over here, downsides of drugs, caffeine, energy drinks, coffee, soda, pills. Do you know what side that person is on that wrote that? Yep. They are against those things. Downside. This is persuasive. Advertising uses persuasive communication all the time. Eat breakfast. It's pretty clear, and they'll give you all the reasons why. Those are all great examples of persuasive. Persuasive has a place in our world. So does expository, but they're two very different things. The number one reason why students get low scores in expository is that they don't understand the difference. And they turn their expositories into an opinion paper. So let's say that they just were learning about Siberian tigers. All right, it's probably a Bengal tiger, right? And they tell us like it's habitat, it's body makeup, it's what else? So like the foods that it eats, right? And then they start to talk about it being endangered. And then they talk about how sad that is. And then they talk about how that needs to stop. And then they talk about how we shouldn't be letting animals be endangered. Did you just see how that changed? It went from being informative, they live here, they eat this is what they look like, they are endangered, factual, 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 and then it turned into persuasive. And isn't it sad? And shouldn't we do something? And you should do this or we should do that. Is it that drops the score immediately? If your child gets an expository, whether it's informational or explanatory, they must stick with the facts. So this would be right here. Should you homeschool this fall? There's no opinion there. It's just saying, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. Here are pros, here are cons, you get to decide. I'm not going to give you my opinion. Okay, that's the difference. Are energy drinks good for you? There's no opinion there. I'm going to tell you what's good and what is bad. You, the reader, get to make up your mind. Very big difference between persuasive and expository, but they cross over just enough that it throws some kiddos off. So that's why it's important that you're practicing. I always practice these back to back. You can practice in any order that you want. I do it in the pen order. I always start with persuasive because kids have opinions and they love to tell you their opinions. And it's a great way to connect with a little writer, is to let them have their opinion and let them prove their point. They feel empowered. From that, we always do expository next, because now I can talk about the differences and I can say, oh, excellent, right? Like you told me your opinion last month, but now I want you to leave your opinion out. And it's a good practice to do those back to back. I always end on narrative because I feel like narrative is the thing that we get the most exposure to. We read so many stories to our kids when they're little. They understand narrative. It's a story, right? It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. And the goal is to be entertaining, which is easy enough to do in a writing prompt. But I always practice that one last, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Any questions on what the ELAPT is? It's writing an essay, a short, formal piece of writing that's responding to a question. It could be an opinion or argumentative. It could be informative or explanatory. It could be a real or imagined story. Everybody understand? Your child's going to be asked to do that. Okay. All right. So let's talk about grade level expectation. I'm not seeing any hands that go up or any questions, but feel free to let me know if you're like, okay, hold on, stop. I have a question about that. I'm here, totally here. Was that informative, by the way? Did anybody just learn something? Is anybody like, oh, nobody's ever told me that before? Yep, I know. And you're the teacher. Why aren't they telling you this? This is like so important. This is why I think like moms need professional development. You're the educator. Why aren't people telling you this? I don't know. Let's work together and tell the world. Good. I'm great. I'm so glad, Mandy. Okay. So part 2, I want to talk about grade level expectations. Now, again, oh, good to know, Jenny. Good. Yes, they do. Okay. So this, again, it's a lot. I know it's a lot. So let me just kind of cover what this screen is going to share. And then you do get access to these slides. I will give you these slides in an email. Oh, the slide is supposed to be changing. Is it not changing? It should say what tests, what grades, when. You may need to move things around, Shannon. You could be blocking maybe something like, maybe make it so like the speaker goes away. Like maybe, are you just seeing my face? Like maybe just move things around, but you should be able to see the slide. Okay. Yeah, it says what tests, what grades, when. So this is important. And again, this is for general education. It has been on persuasive the whole time. Oh no. Okay, but I am able to see another screen, another computer screen, and it is there. So it's something that you have set up. You might have to move things, like you can grab and drag the participant box, grab and move, just move things around. It's somewhere on your screen. It may have even gotten shrunken to tiny, but it is there. If anybody knows that has any tech tips for her, help Shannon out. She's trying to find, where'd the screen go? Okay, so I'm talking today about general education. Outside of general education, we have a group of students that can fall under SPED, special education, 504s, sometimes will fall into this other area. If you have a child who has an IEP, an individualized education plan, they will not most likely be expected. You'll have to talk to your providers. they would not be expected to do the general ed portion of these tests. They have a separate test. And if you have a student who has an IEP, odds are they won't have to do any of the writing. That's one of the first things they take away because it's high, it's advanced. So this is for general education learners. Okay, as you can see right here, the test, the Smarter Balance test, has two parts. It has an English language part, and it also has math, okay? So if you look over here to the grades, who has to take English language arts and who has to take math? 3rd through 8th, and again in 11th grade. Okay, that's who has to do both parts. It is a CAT test, computer adaptive test, and it has all these things. There's a part that's constructed response, MC, multiple choice. PT is performance task. That's the writing portion. And this always surprises people too. There's actually a math PT, but you don't have to write an essay. You just answer a question and you type in your answer. It's not just multiple choice like it was when we were in school. When I was in school, it was multiple choice, multiple guess, everybody called it, multiple guess. And C was most likely the right answer if you were stuck. And remember this, right? Like that was the thing. It's not that way anymore. They actually want interaction with the children that are taking the test. So even in math, it'll be like this. It'll have a scenario. It'll be like, you just bought a donut shop and you are in charge of designing a box to hold a dozen donuts. Your average donut size is blah, blah, blah. How many donuts, and do you write out your answer rather than like the answers for? You'd say, well, first I'd need to, da, da, da. That's what the math PT is. The English PT is the essay, and that's what I'm talking about today, okay? That's my focus, that's my passion, that's my expertise. I proctored these tests for years. I have been a credentialed teacher for over 30 years. So I know this stuff. If you have a 5th grader or an 8th grader, they will also need to take a science test this year, by the way. Did you know that? Now notice it's a different test. This is all part of CASP, but CASP chose this test for English language arts and math, and they chose this test for science. Okay. Now, the other thing that I just want you to see here, I want you to be aware, teachers, is that schools get 25 days to get the tests all done. They don't just get like all year, work on it, turn it in when you can. Nope. There's a very specific window. It's already opened up, which is crazy to me that any school would start their testing in February, but some do. You like just started the 2nd semester. I don't like, why are you not waiting until the end of April to start testing? That's as soon as I'd ever start testing, end of April, which is the majority of schools. Do you guys know when your tests start? Do you know that? Yeah, if you do, tell me, I'll be curious. Every school's different. But once they start, so let's say they say, we're gonna open the window on April 20th. I'm just picking a random date. They then have 25 instructional days. Basically 5 weeks, right? They don't count weekends. They have 5 weeks from the time they say testing starts now, go. Now, a lot of you will say, oh, they only give us 1 week. But I'm telling you, you have more days than that. So the schools have come a long way. They used to say, like if a parent said, we just want to get our testing over with, so we just want to do all the testing in 1 day. That is a terrible idea. No brick and mortar does that. They take their time over a couple of weeks so they don't burn their students out. So 1 day they just take one part of the math and then they give the kids a day off. And then they come back another day and they take one part of the language arts and then they take, the rest of the afternoon off. They don't overwhelm the students. But in the beginning, charter schools were just overwhelming the students, which of course made the parents hate testing too, because here they're watching their poor kids struggling. So ideally, you can just do a certain portion every day, make it no big deal, make it like, hey, this is a tool. We want to see what did you learn this year so that we know what we're going to teach you next year. That's all. We want to know what you know this year So we know what to teach you next year. And if your kids never see their test scores, that's fine. They're not for them. They're for you. They're for you to be like, oh, I thought we were doing better in math. It looks like we're missing this certain section. Measurement scored really low. We're going to work on that a little bit over the summer. That's all it's for. Okay. All right. So we've got end of April, end of March. Okay, good. Good, good, good. And Shannon, can you see the slides now? I'm hoping, did it all work? I also threw these in here because I think this would shock some of you. So a lot of parents are like, wait, in third grade, my child has to type up their essay? They actually have to sit there and type? Yeah, they sure do. Do you know that there are digital literacy standards, not just in the state of California, across our nation? Computers are a thing. They're not going away. Digital literacy is important. So I want you just to look at the yellow column, purple column, and green columns. See the grade levels up there? K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is interesting. And I'm going to give you these slides. In fact, I have a whole link to something that you may find interesting. These are the skills that kids learn starting in kindergarten. It's introduced in kindergarten how to turn on a computer and how to log in. Age 5. Of course, most of your kids go in to kindergarten age level and they already know how to do that. Kids are so techie these days. It's crazy. But look at what's mastered. M is mastery. That means the ability to teach somebody else to do it. Look at all those green columns, all the things that they must master. And look at all that keyboarding skills, using menus and toolbar functions, changing your font, your size, your style by second grade. Right? That's craziness. It's a lot. Here's our 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Yeah, they have mastery. Notice everything mastered by 8th grade. By high school, you're just fine tuning. So they want them to be digitally literate in today's. It's a language. It's like being bilingual. You need to understand how computers work and how they talk to one another. And yeah, it's important. So you're going to see a lot of digital components that I add to my program. That's intentional. You're not just going to be practicing writing. You're going to be getting a lot of digital literacy standards mastered as well. So it's all good. It's all good stuff. So again, who has shown you this? Anybody? Has anybody been like, hey, how are you guys doing with your digital literacy standards? Probably not, but we need to, right? If you're like, right, it's the first time you've ever seen or hearing this. Yeah, first for you too. You're not alone, right? I feel like we need to do a better job in education, in educating our educators, which is you. Yeah, I just get all in an uproar. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep going on. Like I said, there's a link on that slide. I'm going to give you these slides. And later, if you're like, I want to look at all that, because it's like a 37-page document. So in your spare time, you can kind of scroll through it. Awareness is everything. And you're so welcome, Loretta. You are so welcome. I will pour my brain into your brain. And I want you guys to be informed because it will make you better teachers. Okay.
Does it matter, PC?
Oh, does it matter? Do the school specified literacy on Max or PC? Both really. But they use, so many of the schools use Chromebooks, right? So that's usually what they're learning most of these things on, assuming that you're gonna obviously at home have various forms. So they all work in that instance. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go over each one of these. I think we're on page 4 of your handout. Any questions? Did I skip anything? Are we good? Okay. I'm going to go over each of these 3 things with a lot of detail. Okay. But I like to give you an overview because that's just how my brain thinks. I'm like, can you show me the whole picture first? And then we'll get into the nitty gritty. That's kind of how I work best. So your kids are going to, let's just pull something. Okay, I'm going to say Cindy's child is given an opinion and has to write an opinion about what's the best job. And your child writes all about what they think the best job is, being a veterinarian. Okay, so they go ahead and they write that. When they turn that in, and they only get the 1 day to work on this, and most kids burn out after an hour or two, right? Like it's, and that's fine. They're not expecting perfection. They know this was all written in one sitting. Okay, so your child hits submit, turns it in. How it used to be, and AI is changing this now, but how it used to be is this was the only portion of the test that was actually read by credentialed teachers. I actually loved that. I loved that whatever a child wrote was read by a real person. Now there's AI, and supposedly last year, a lot of schools were piloted and those essays were just given to a computer and AI was supposed to score it. And so many students got scores that said NS, non-scorable. So it was like getting a 0. So they did all that work and they didn't even get a score. I was furious. I was furious. And so I know that's the way it's moving, and I'm not going to fight it because I gave up fighting reality a long time ago. I lose every time. Reality is that is what they're going to do. But what they are looking for is very specific. And if we know what they're looking for, then we can make sure that our children write as little as possible, but get the highest score. That's efficiency for me. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty efficient, right? So they're going to get scored in 3 areas. They're expected to know how to organize their thoughts. And like I said, I'm going to go into each of these with more specific examples, but they have to know the purpose of what it is they're writing, and they need to create a thesis, which is just the main point. That's really important. I'm going to show you that in a second. The second thing they have to do is they need to develop whatever they write with details. They have to have evidence. They're going to have to quote from their sources, and they need to use academic vocabulary. And again, we'll go into that more specifically in a little bit. And they need to be as grammatically sound as possible. Capitalize their sentences, check for commas and periods. There's a spell check on the test. Isn't that nice? There's a spell check. So that is really helpful. They just need to know where to find it because the teachers can't tell them on test day. So you need to look at the test ahead of time and show them. And that's important, and we'll be doing that. Okay, so let's go over number 1 just a little more specifically. So on your form, you can just fill out, students must organize their thoughts with intention. They will be given articles, and I'll show you what some of those look like. Every child from 3rd grade on, they're going to have articles that they're expected to read. A lot of kids see that as like, oh my gosh, I have to read? I thought I just had to write. I want them to understand that the articles they give them, those are gifts. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, but those are gifts. It's like giving somebody the answer key. They are gifts. And that's what I teach my students. Let's go back to Cindy's child is writing about why a veterinarian is the best job. It's very important that Cindy's child says, being a veterinarian is the best job because, and give 1, 2, or 3 reasons why found in the article that they read about. Maybe you'd want to be a veterinarian. That's what your thesis does. It says to the person who's reading it, this person is well organized. They have the thoughts straight in their mind. They know the purpose of what they were writing, and they've clearly told me the main point. The second thing is that students must develop their writing using details and quotes from the articles provided. Whoever's checking, I wish it were a teacher. When AI checks, it's going to be looking for a quote from a source. Guess what? They give you the reading material so you don't have to go find a source. You just find a quote from inside one of those, add that to your writing, you're going to get points for that. Most kids don't know that. And it's not hard to do. So we're going to practice that too. And the third thing that they're going to get, oh wait, what else did I say? They're quoting a source, using specific examples, and using academic vocabulary connected to that main point or thesis shows student mastery. So again, using good vocabulary. And on the test, again, a lot of kids don't know this, they see that there's a dictionary, but when you click on that dictionary, and let's say the word that you're like, I know there's a better word than bad, but you can't think of anything because you're on a test and you're stressed out. If you go to the dictionary and you type in the word bad and you hit search, it not only gives you the definition, but it's a thesaurus. It says also means harmful, detrimental. I tell kids all the time, I'm like, you do have a thesaurus there. It's just kind of hiding, but it is there to help you pull better vocabulary words. So again, it's just awareness. It's just showing them what's there to help them. And when those kids can just insert one better word for a less wowed word, then they're going to show that they understand academic vocabulary. Okay. And the third thing they get scored on is their grammatical accuracy. Now, some of you right now are like, that's going to be a problem. My child doesn't start with capital letters, doesn't put periods. That's why we're going to practice. You have from now until the end of March, end of April to get some practice in. It is not enough that you're here learning. This is just the start of us working together, I hope, because this does not happen overnight. Go back to the hiking analogy that I gave you. You know where we are right now? We've basically parked the car, we've put on our backpacks, and we're not even a mile in. That's where we are, my friends. This is a journey. It's going to take time, right? There's going to be a moment where you're going to be like, oh my goodness, did you just brush against poison oak? Poison, right? Like hard times are going to come. It's going to be hard sometimes. And then you're going to get to this one space and you're going to look out and you're going to say, look at that vista. Look at that view. It's beautiful from up here, but it's a journey. It's a journey. I don't expect mastery today. I just want you to be aware because I proctored this test for years and I always made sure that I had a box of Kleenex because this is what I would see so often. There would be times that I literally was fighting tears because my students would be just breaking down. They couldn't even read half of the words. They're like, this was before I created this test prep course because I didn't know. I thought I was preparing them. They were going in and it was after the first year. I'm like, I need to see that test. I need to see what's happening because my students are breaking down. They're crying. They don't know what is being asked of them. This isn't fair to them. Stop it. We need to know what are you asking and how are you asking it so that we can prepare them. And that's when I started to do the test prep awareness because nobody's out there doing this. They're not telling, especially home educators. Classroom teachers know a lot more, but home educators know so little of this. And we do not want this to be your child. We want your child to be the happy child. Remember, your whys are whys. Why are you homeschooling? You want them to succeed, and you can help them more than anybody else can. You want to build bonds with them and closeness to them, learning together because you're going to learn. I promise you, you're going to learn. And you're going to say things to your kids like, I wish she had been my teacher way back when. I never learned it this way. I love that we're learning this together. And I know you care about your children and you want them to be successful. What we do works. My students are now very successful. And I love that at the end of the testing time, this is what I get. I get tons of emails from kids. I'm always like, share your results with me. I want to see, I want to see, I want to see. So I want to show you a couple things. Your children do not get a grade score for this, which probably doesn't surprise you. It's all numbers. A 4 is above grade level. So 4s are amazing. 4s amaze me. I'm like, wow, you're working above grade level. Good for you. My goal, I hope they get a 3. That's 3s are great. A 3 means you made it. You're exactly where you should be for your grade level. If you're on the high side, that's even better. And if you move into a 4, wow, you're doing more than they even expect at your age. So that's great. And I want your scores to come back like this. I did have to share this bottom one. This was so funny. This was a girl in my class a couple of years ago, actually. And she got her score back and she sent it to me and she goes, I'm so bummed. And I looked at her score and I'm like, you got 2,648 points. She goes, yeah, but look, I was 1 point away from a level 4. This is a high achieving student. I will tell you that. She's a very high achieving student. And she was just so bummed. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of look at it as you are the top of your class. Look at that. Of a 3, you are the topper. That's what you are. So yes, this is important. Now, this one was actually shared last year. And I wanted to show you that I like that they are doing this. This is new. It used to just be you'd get the score. But last year, they're starting to break it down. So for that organization and purpose that I just told you about, out of 4, she got 4. Development, right? That's where she quoted her source. She used her good academic vocabulary. She also got a 4 out of 4. And you can't see the bottom part, but that's grammar. She got a 2 out of 2. And that's the highest score possible. That's great. That's super great. So it's showing you now, if your child didn't get, say, a level 3 or a level 4, you can see where's the hole. Is it in organization? Is it in the development? Or is it in the grammar? I do like that they're breaking it down that way. Okay. Okay. So it's a lot of expectations, I know. And here's the thing. You now know what your child's going to be asked to do. And for their grade level, and you know how they're going to be tested, right? The organization, the development, and the grammar. It's now time to practice that. If all you did was just tell them what you learned today, do you think they would do well on the test? No, not at all. They might be a little more familiar with the vocabulary, but they're not going to know how to do this work. So I did come up with a course. Oh, I always put this slide here because I don't want to forget, just to make sure I covered these things, because these questions always come up. I try to answer them as we go. When and how will students know which prompt will be given to them? They will not know until it's that day to do that test. They'll open it up. I'll show you an example of one. They'll open it up. They'll read it. It'll tell them what their style is. So you need to practice all 3, and you need to tell them, these are the 3 words you're looking for. It's either going to be this, honey, or this, or that. Make sure they know all 3. Okay. How long should their response be? I promise you, it's not about quantity. I tell kids, throw that out of your mind. I like to practice a 3-paragraph essay for this. That's what I teach. But if the test day comes and they're like, I just wrote it as 1 long paragraph, I forgot to put it in 3, it's not going to matter. As long as the quality was there. Students have said that to me. They're like, Mrs. Webb, I just wrote it as 1 long page. I forgot to break it into 3 paragraphs. And then they tell me, I still got a 4. And I'm like, that's because they don't care about like how clean it looks. Is it double spaced? What font size? They don't care about any of that. They're looking for the quality. Okay. They want, was it organized? Was it developed? Was it grammatically correct? That's what they're interested in. The third question that comes up all the time, how long are they given to complete the task? It's untimed. If they wanted to sit there for 4 or 5 hours, they're allowed to. Most won't. Most kids burn out. They burn out. But and again, schools are really good about this. There was a time where I had a parent tell me that their facilitator said, your child needs to finish, there's only 30 more minutes. And I said, that's actually not true. It's untimed. All these tests are untimed. If children need more time, you're supposed to stay and let them work on it. You can't just close the doors, because once they leave that testing session, they can't come back to it. So they can't come home. Let's say they went somewhere for the test and they came home, or they got in the car, you picked them up, and they're like, oh, you know what? I forgot to do this and that. Tomorrow I'm going to go open it up and I'll add that in. Can't do that. When it's done, it's done. Okay. All right. Again, any other questions over there? No. Okay. Let's talk about practicing. Let's get our reps in. Okay. By the way, this is what it will look like for your students, for your children. If you're like, what will it look like when they open it up? It's going to look like this. Let me see if this will open in a new tab. Is it taking me to a new tab? I want to show you, because this is free. You guys can do this. In fact, that's why I'm saying I'll show you how you can practice without joining my course. I'll show you that. I totally will show you that. So when you go to this link, you can pick a grade. I know Julia said 3rd grade, so I'm going to go 3rd grade. English language arts, writing. And you have all these samples. You want to look for anything that says writing extended response. And there'll be a few on here that you can go look at. Like here's one. Let's open this one. And these are free practices. You can use these to practice. Okay, so when your child goes to the test, this is what it's going to look like. And I want you to look at this with your child ahead of time. Because when I see this, if I'm in an 8-year-old's mindset, is your child 8, Julia? 8? 9. 9? 9. Okay. When a 9-year-old looks at this, would they not be overwhelmed? Right? Who would not be overwhelmed? I'm overwhelmed. Imagine this is the first time they're seeing it ever. And you're like, I hope they do well. This is where I didn't know in year 1 when they started doing testing this way, this is when kids started to cry. They're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Don't you? Me too, Loretta. Right? Now, here's the amazing thing. Did you just see all the 4s that I showed you? Do you know how proud those kids are of themselves for doing this? When they master this and they're like, I know what to do, they have confidence that blows you away. When we raise the bar, they will meet us there. But it is our job to pack the backpack and to say, look out, that's poison oak. And here, you haven't had water for a while. You need to drink. They need us. We should be their guides. Okay. So number one thing that I tell students, I go, you're going to come to your test. This is the very first thing you're going to see. And all I want you to do is just read your assignment first. That's the only thing I want you to do. Actually, the very first thing I tell them to do is I say, look at what your performance task is. Know right away what it is you're supposed to do. They're writing their opinion. They get note paper. They're allowed to use note paper. So I would write on a piece of paper, opinion, give my side, anything they remember about persuasive, persuade, convince, get them to start thinking, because that's what's about to be asked of them. Then I would read the assignment. It says your class is going to make a book about different places people visit. You will write an opinion essay to contribute to the class book. Your assignment is to use the information from the sources to write an opinion essay. Here they're saying it over and over and over again, in which you give your opinion about which type of island would be better to visit. A hot island or a cold island? Oh, back to my note paper. Option 1, hot island. Option 2, cold island. They want my opinion. Which is better? If I'm visiting, which one? Okay. This is why you've got to show them this ahead of time. All of a sudden, your kids are like, oh, I could do that. That's not so overwhelming. And they remind you, you need details from your sources. You want to develop your ideas, use your own words, quote directly. Okay. Now, then I would tell my child, I now want you to ignore the right side of your screen and see this arrow. Do you see the arrows? They're like pointing away from each other. I just want you to click that. And look what just happened. Everything on the right disappeared. Kids don't even know that. And then I would say, make it bigger. Do you know that words in larger font are less stressful on children? It's true. Think of board books. How big were those letters when your child was first learning to read? Big, big. Because when it's little, when it's small like this, and I'm scrolling, I'm overwhelmed. That looks like a lot. But when I make it larger, I'm already feeling a little bit better about it. Okay. I need to close that. Okay. Okay. So have them make it however big they want. That's a little too big for me. And then to have them take a look and just show them over on this side now, these are the articles you're going to read. So this is an article about cold islands, Greenland and the Faroe Island, right? It sounds like it should be nice and warm on Greenland, but it actually talks here about how cold it is, all right? And then you get another article on the opposite, tropical islands, warm islands, and things you can do there. Now, your child, hopefully at this point, is taking some notes. And they're like, okay, 3 things that are good about cold islands is one, if you like cold weather, you're going to love that. If you like glaciers, if you like ice fishing, if you like seeing seals and walruses and polar bears, cold islands are your thing. Then they go down and they read this one and they're like, ooh, if you love palm trees and coral reefs and swimming in lagoons, you're going to like a warm island. And they're just going to take some notes on either side. And then they're going to form their opinion on it. Now, typically, 3rd graders get 2 articles. Sometimes they'll give 3. And as you go up, you get more articles. But even by 8th grade, I think the most articles I've ever seen are 4 articles because it takes time for the kids to read through those. If your child stresses about all the reading that there is, let them know they only have to quote from 1 article. So if they only read the first article and they just go with that, they're like, I'm just going to go with that. I'm stressed out. I'm just going to say cold islands are great. Just quote from that source and just use the information from that source. You'll still score really well. Okay. As you can see, as they go down, eventually it gets to this part and there are the directions again, your assignment. Okay. So there's their assignment and it tells them, and then this is where they type. And there's a little block and they'll start typing here. And by the way, if you go to the site to practice, don't have them type here, because as soon as you exit, you lose everything. That it's not going to save it for you. Did you notice I didn't sign in with anything? This is just free public information. So I've heard of heartbreaking things where kids are like, oh, I went on to that practice test and I wrote a whole essay, but I can't find it now. I'm like, it's out in the ethers. Like it's gone. It's flying out in cyberspace somewhere, right? It's gone. All the typing you do, I'm going to show you in my program where I'm going to have you do it so you never lose it. So I can give you some feedback and I can review it for you. It won't be here, but I just want them to know that this is here, because one of the other things that you'll see, and I don't see it on this one, but I know it's on the real one, it says ABC and it's a spell check. And so you want your kids to know that there's a spell check. Now, the other thing that I want kids to know is this. I told you there's a dictionary. So they should know that there's a dictionary. So if I wrote in the word bad, it will give me that definition, but it will also usually give another word. Oh, see, it's saying stub. I don't know why. It's not working correctly on this one. But it is a great tool that they have there. Yeah, I'm going to give you that link. I'll give it to you guys right now, actually. So let me close this. And I'm going to give you it from this page. And you, like I said, you get all these links and everything that I have. I am happy to share it with you. I am not hoarding information over here, hoping nobody uses it. On the contrary. Okay. So this, I would bookmark this page. Do you guys know how to bookmark? Go up here, open it up, star it, add it as a bookmark so that you can find it later. I think that's a very good idea. I already have it in my CAFS folder, but you guys should create a way to save important information. When you get these slides, you'll see as you go over the slides, you can click places and it'll take you there too, okay? So you want to familiarize yourself with this because there is a lot of reading. And like I said, I think reading is a gift because a lot of times kids will be like, what do I know about hot islands or cold islands? Imagine if all it was a prompt. Kids will be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to write about warm islands or cold islands. I don't know, right? The articles give you all your answers. Like what animals live there, what the weather's like there, what sports you can do there. It's all the answers. So it's a good thing. The articles are a good thing, but that's a mindset. We have to teach our kids to believe that. Okay. If you'll notice this in the last several pages of the guided notes that I gave you a free way to get some practice in. So if you don't want to do my course, you don't have to. You'll get way more with the course, though, I promise you. But I know some people like they've used all their funds and they're like, but how can I practice? I have these final pages for you all set up. You're going to do these 10 steps 1 through 10. You're going to do them 3 times, right? So you could spend 2 weeks doing persuasive and they give you all these prompts. You could do any of these. These are all free practice prompts. Like I just showed you that one, there's more. There's a lot by all these different grades. And if you're a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, you have a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grader, don't think you only have to do 5th grade because you have a 5th grader, right? You could do this animal habitat informational as a practice. It's still going to score the same. 3rd, 4th, and 5th are all similar. 6th, 7th, and 8th, all similar. Okay. All right. You're welcome. Not a problem. So you're going to do that for a persuasive prompt. You're going to do it again for an expository prompt, and then you're going to do it again for a narrative prompt. Okay. And I know we've gone way over, but we are almost done. I'm amazed how many of you have stuck around this whole time. It is so much information. Now, this is another resource I want you to know, and this link is going to take you straight to it. Some of you may want to know what should it look like. So they have on that site an example of a student in 4th grade who got a 1 out of, remember, our goal is 3. Our goal is 3. 4 is a great, but this person got a 1. This is a 4th grader. And you can go and read actual prompts that students turned in before and then scored a certain way. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Okay, so you have that link. I do have a course, and it's a really great course, I have to say, because what we're going to do is we're going to practice all 3 between now. We're going to start on Monday, February 10th. And that week is just your organization week. The first essay prompt, we're going to start on the 17th. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to give you lots of pre-recorded instruction that's going to walk you through step by step how to do this. so that you don't have to use up that brain energy to figure it out. It's a digital course, and as you can see, it has 3 sections. In the persuasive section, we're going to talk about how to organize this, how to get evidence, how to do conventions. And I'm going to give you several prompts. You guys can pick the one that interests you. You don't get to pick on test day, but right now you guys can pick something of interest. Why not? So I give you lots of options. Then we're going to spend 2 weeks on expository, and then we're going to spend 2 weeks on narrative. When you open it up, it's going to look like this. Do you see all those little video camera icons? Those are all the videos I've already made for you to sit and watch with your child. You're hiking together. This is not meant to be, I just want my child to go do this by himself. You'll hear I often talk as if I'm talking to the child, right? But I would love you there watching, learning, and helping your child, okay? Yes, you definitely. The course is for the kids and you're helping them with it. Super duper important. This isn't just, there you go, kids, good luck, right? You wouldn't just send them on a hike. You'd come along. You also wouldn't carry them on your back, but you would assign these things and ideally watch them too. Again, I think there's so much we all can be learning through this. Now, the thing that I'm most excited about that I want to show you is this test bundle that you get in this course. And I'm going to actually show you the test bundle because I think you're going to love it. When you sign up, and everybody's going to, I'm going to open up the course this Friday. And then next week, you guys have all next week to get organized. And then we're going to start. This is a bundle that you get to make your own copy of. And let's just look at the persuasive section. When you open it, I've already put over here all the things you need. There's a calendar for you. You'll be like, wait, you already told me what to do and on which day? Yep. But you get to pick. Like, I would suggest you're going to get these 5 or 6 things done during this week, but this is interactive. So you can be like, okay, we're going to do this on a Monday, right? You can choose the days you're going to do it, but I'm telling you everything you need to do that week, right? Super helpful. I'm going to show you how to take notes and give you the forms to do that. I'm going to give you an outline and teach you how to use the, you will be blown away 8 weeks from now, 9 weeks, 10 weeks from now, you'll be like, I never knew we could learn so much in such a short period of time. This has everything. And like I said, it has a place where your child's going to type and not lose their work. It's going to stay right here in the bundle. And throughout the whole thing, I'm going to give you teacher examples to show what this could look like. Okay. Depending on your grade level, could look a little more, could look a little less, as well as I have toolkits with all kinds of other helpful tools like lists of transition words. This is writing on steroids. And if this is your first introduction to this, I expect it's going to be overwhelming. But like I said in the very beginning, if you choose the mindset, this is learning. This is teaching and learning, teaching and learning. The number one way that new families start with me next fall are through this course. They take this course and then they're like, I just want to work with you all year long. And then it's not going to feel like, oh, we've got to do so much in 8 weeks. No, we work on it all year long. We do 3 every semester. And those students of mine, we're constantly talking about how to get high scores. It's just natural. It's a natural part of our conversation. So you also get that. So that's pretty awesome. I will tell you this because people always ask, okay, how much is it for all that? That's a lot. That's a lot. And some of you have already signed up, which I love. A couple of years ago, I remember a parent saying, yeah, we're going to just do it on our own. You know, we are out of funds. Or one specific mom had said, we're going to hire a tutor to go through that 10-step one that you showed us. And I'm like, oh, great idea, great idea. You know, if you've got a tutor, later, I didn't think about it at the time, but later on, I was like, how much is a tutor right now? And I think on average, a good price would be $35 an hour. Any of you get tutors, use tutors? How much are they charging now? I think a lot of them might be charging more than that. But I was like, okay, so even if you had a tutor, maybe even like a college student who's going to help your child with writing 1 hour a week for 8 weeks, that's going to be $280. Tutors are not the inexpensive way to go. That course that I just showed you with expert guidance and instruction, more than 8 hours of instruction and support, all those organized materials, plus me reviewing your child's work and giving you that score. Customer support, you can always reach out to us. Saturdays, Sundays, we'll even get back to you just because we know what it's like to be in your shoes. And then just the genuine care. I truly want your child to be successful. I know it will make you feel good, and that's great, but I really want confident children. They're our next generation. They're the communicators of tomorrow. I'm invested in this. So the program, I think, is very reasonable. And if you haven't signed up, I do hope you consider signing up. This is going to be the breakdown on Friday. Everybody who I've received your purchase order, which like I said, so many of you have already received them. That's fantastic. Or payments. I've received payments already. All of you are going to get an email on Friday, and it's going to have this. It's going to say, here's how to get started. And it's going to tell you what website to go to and how to log in, and then how to get started and how to get that test prep bundle. We're going to practice persuasive for 2 weeks, expository for 2 weeks, narrative, and then we'll do a review and wrap up. Usually around that 8-week time, I will offer up a meeting where I get to then meet with your kids, which I would love to meet your kids at the end of all this. It's really fun. I just have a conversation with them. We actually play a few fun games. I talk to them about how to reduce test anxiety, just practical things. At that point, they've already done the writing. They're already feeling a bit more confident, but I give them a few extra tools and tips just to kind of keep, it's like a celebration party because we're all are just so excited that we've made it to that point. So there you go. Our objectives have been hit in an hour and a half. Do you feel like you have a clear understanding of all the things and know some ways that you can practice? Good. I'm like, you guys all get A+++++ for sticking around this whole entire time. This was a long webinar, and yet you all have been engaged. I thank you for that. It says a lot to me about the kind of parent and educator you are. This matters to you, and you're my people. I love it. And if I can be supportive in any way moving forward, you just let me know. You absolutely just let me know. If you're not signed up yet, we are still taking, so let me get this little link over here. I'll do we have a sign up form. You're going to want to sign up. If you're like, I'm sold, that's it, I'm doing this. Great. I would love that. You'll want to fill out that form. I'm actually going to close the doors on Friday because I want to just focus on those who are in it. And I've done it before where I'm like, oh, come in anytime. It gets stressful doing it that way. And I'm spending too much time taking care of my current students, helping you. And then I'm trying to onboard all these other new people. I know my own bandwidth and I just don't have time. I want to focus on test prep starting next Monday. So doors will close. So if you're like, oh, I have some other homeschool moms that need to know about this. Oh my goodness, my facilitator should be telling everybody at our school about this. Now would be the time to share it. And I always appreciate when you do. Any questions? I'm going to stick around if there's any questions. Otherwise, you can hit leave meeting and you're out of here. And you can go enjoy the rest of your day. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Loretta. I hear the applause. You're so welcome, Victoria. I'm really glad you were here. Again, thank you so much for staying. Again, if there's anything else you wanted me to show you or you wanted to look at, anything at all, just let me know. We can do that for sure. The other thing that I'm going to throw out there and we'll talk about this next week, is should we do like a weekly check-in? Just a really short Zoom for the parents where like every Friday, just from like 8:30 to 9 or 9:30 to 10, like we just have like office hours where I'm just like available. Where like every Friday, if you're having questions, you could just pop on from like 9:30 to 10 and ask. I wouldn't have a slideshow or anything. It would just be, this is, I'm here if you need something, if you're struggling. I was thinking about adding that on. I've never done that before, but do you think that would be helpful? Maybe, possibly. Yeah. Okay, good. Yes, I will send the recording. In fact, I can stop the recording now. Thank you for reminding me that I had that going. All right.